Hey, look who's back. It's Metroid. All right. That's great news for everyone involved. I'm a pretty big Metroid fan. I think, oddly enough, the only Metroid game I never beat was Metroid 2, and that's what Metroid Samus Returns is a remake reimagining of. And I'm definitely not the foremost expert of this is how much is different. This is all the changes they made. I know the base idea of we gotta hunt down these 40 Metroids is carried over. I know that, but as far as upgrades, abilities, map layout, I'm assuming a lot has changed, and maybe perhaps some has stayed the same. Now, we actually on the GameFanatics.com have just put out the review from Tyler, who gave it a 7 out of 10, and I agree with pretty much all of his major points. Not gonna, go through them with a fine-tooth comb now, but I agree. It is a great return to form to the series after Other M, and especially after Federation Force, which is very much more egregious to me. I think the last original Metroid game we would have got that was 2D, original, not a remake, would have been Fusion, which is absurd. Because after that we got Zero Mission, which is a remake of the first game, and I mean, Other M had some 2D sections, but it really not like this. It certainly wasn't like this. So it's been a long time, and even this one isn't a new Metroid game. So it's still, if you look at it like that, it's fucking bizarre what they're doing with this. But enough about that. I think my feeling about this game kind of oscillated up and down as I was playing it. And first, I was very positive. I think it has a super strong opening. You're getting items. You start with the missiles. You get the morph ball real quick. Then you're getting the ice beam real quick. You're getting not the power bomb, just the normal bomb for the morph ball. And you're getting these Aeon abilities that they're showing right here, like the shield, even though that's later. You're scanning things with the ability, with the Aeon powers. And all that is great and handled super well. You get that ability to shoot lasers and stuff. You get this to freeze time, which I didn't know about, or not freeze time, slow down time. I didn't know about that, and that was awesome to find out. So I'm kind of upset that Nintendo's putting this in their official trailer, but whatever. It's an awesome feeling. The first couple hours are fantastic, but I really hit not a roadblock, but kind of like, this is not what I want in area 2 or 3, and that's literally what they're called in the game. I feel like someone at Mercury's team was like, oh, we made level names for these, right? But we forgot to like ship them in, and so someone on the team just made these cool area names, and then it's in an Excel spreadsheet somewhere, and they just never put them in the game. And that person's real pissed off because I go to area 3, area 4, area 5, all the way to area 8. I'm like, you couldn't think of names for these? Whatever. It's irrelevant, but it's still stupid. So anyway, roughly area 2 to 3, I will say, I hit this wall where I was annoyed at the platforming it was making me do. You freeze an enemy, have to stand on it, then you have to shoot a missile, and then like jump in the one square you needed to go in. It wasn't quite right. And with the controls of the 3DS that I certainly am not anything I play on very frequently, it was annoying. I think the biggest drawback isn't that this game is on 3DS necessarily, it's that the 3DS isn't comfortable for me to use. And so that was compounding my annoyances. Release the Express. I know, right? Just send a demand to Nintendo. This is worse than the Amiibo locking away things, which we'll get to in a minute. But worse than that, the game, and I had to learn this the hard way, it started doing these things where it's like, I can't get over there, right? And you might think, oh, maybe I need a new ability, maybe I need whatever. But I had to scan to figure out like, oh, there's a hidden block there. I never would have gone over there to try it. Or there's this thing, it's like, oh, I think I need this ability. And oh, you just need to shoot a missile at it from really far away where you can't see it and then jump over there. And that's on me. And I know that's my fault, but it was still annoying and stupid, and I didn't really like it that much. And Tyler brings this up in his review too. You end up fighting the same kind of bosses over and over. There are 3 or 4 bosses that are unique that you only fight once. And those, we'll get to those in a minute, but the ones you fight over and over, I actually liked. It is repetitive, but I don't necessarily mind that. The whole idea of hunting down all these Metroids is pretty freaking cool, and they're all Metroids. They're just normal Metroids for the most part, so it makes sense. And the battles themselves are fun. You got the new melee counter ability, which becomes very important throughout the entire game, where you want to be melee countering everything, literally everything, because you melee counter it and then you basically shoot it twice and it's dead, as opposed to shooting it like 10-15 times. So it's incredible. Now, not every enemy that can be done to, etc., blah blah blah, doesn't matter. That's the annoying platforming I'm talking about. That's the easiest part of the platforming. The grapple platforming, also annoying. So the melee also comes into the boss fights. So you'll be fighting this boss and you'll have to remember its little tick, like, oh, it's about to attack me. It does this sound and it does a flash, and then you know to melee counter it the same way the enemies do. But the timing's different with a boss because it's only like one attack it does it on, and it's like a particular thing, especially one that you fight maybe 10 plus times. Like, okay, I know it's gonna do this. And these fights are long and involved, and you'll do the melee counter and you'll be doing this weird cutscene thing where you jump around and you're shooting it with missiles in the face, like right down its stupid ass throat, Metroid. And it's awesome. And it looks awesome with the 3D. And then that happens and you're like, okay, I'm still shooting it with 50 missiles. It's not messing around. I would say it's hard, but I'd also say it's just kind of annoyingly difficult, particularly a couple of the bosses you only fight once. Towards the end, there's this drill boss that I hated. I was stuck on this boss forever simply because at the third stage of its form, right? It's like, okay, I have a new move now. I have 3 new moves now. I'm never going to tell you what they were beforehand. You get hit by any of them, 3 energy tanks are gone. Well, thanks. Thanks for that. I had no idea these moves were coming. Now they just completely destroy you. And that's where the difficulty comes in with some of these things. Like, it really is a game of dodging everything, countering everything. Not like, you can't just stand there and get hit. Obviously, you shouldn't just stand there and get hit anyway, but that's not what I mean. I mean, it really, like, when I beat that drill boss, I beat the first two forms without getting hit once, because I had done it so many times. I had it memorized. And then when I still beat him, it's like I probably got hit 3-4 times. That's crazy. It's crazy that it required that much precision, and that getting hit by a random laser would hurt me for 4 energy tanks, or 3 energy tanks was what's one attack. Or the same drill boss, you had to roll up the side of its legs, and if you didn't time it right, the leg would move and you'd get hit and knocked away, right? But that's not really attack, it was just kind of moving. That still hurts you for at least a full energy tank. And it just doesn't feel quite balanced right when you can get hit 3 times and be almost dead. And then you have the Aeon ability, that's a shield, and you can turn that shield on, and the shield's like worth like 20 energy tanks, it seems like. It's very inconsistent with how much the attacks would do to me versus how much Aeon they would take off. That one attack that did 3 energy tanks would take up maybe a third of the Aeon gauge, which doesn't even make any goddamn sense. So whatever, that's beside the point. There's also some annoying, the final boss I rather enjoyed, and I did it twice. Once after I beat it, and then once again after I found every item in the game. And it's certainly easier with all the items, but it's still annoying where you're just dodging things constantly, way more than I remember having to dodge things in a Metroid game. But then again, it's been 10 years since there's been a 2D Metroid game. I don't fucking know. I do remember them being hard in this similar way. And to this game's credit, and it needs to be this way because it would have been infuriating, and I might have like thrown the cartridge away if there hadn't been checkpoints. So you get to a boss room and you die in the boss, you'll start right outside the room. Wonderful. I that's so much better than everything we've had. You can still die and lose progress. It's not like the wussy game, every single door is a checkpoint. But that's what it needed. If it wasn't like that, it would have been infuriating, because there are sometimes you go through a door and you're like, oh shit, that was a boss room? I didn't know that. I have 2 energy tanks. This is not good. I'm gonna die, and then you die. That's great. But it gives you a chance to go back, heal up, and get ready for the fight, especially Like you can navigate the world and like deflect all the attacks and get through that fine. It's the bosses where you can't deflect everything, where you have to be looking at what they're doing at all times, knowing this is when I can't touch it, this is when I can deflect, this is, you know, all these stipulations for what it's doing and how you need to react. And I like that. You know, I like the Souls games, I like all that stuff. It just doesn't quite feel right when meshed. The damage values just never quite mesh. It always felt like I was hitting these things with so much damage. I'm just shooting missile after missile after missile at them, and it was like, this is long, drawn out, intense battle, but I don't know if it could have been intense in another way that didn't involve, oh, you got hit once, that's, you know, 1 of your 5, don't get hit 4 more times, you know, like, I think something else could have been done. Speaking to the length of the game and how much stuff there is in it, I've heard people say that it's actually a long game, and I'm going to disagree. I looked at my 3DS, and, you know, it keeps track of all the games you play, and it said I played the game for 16 and a half hours of power on time. The clear clock said I had 11 hours. So obviously all those times I died against that drill guy didn't count, but 11 hours game clock to beat the game and get it about 60%, and then 12 and a half hours in-game clock to get 100%. And then if you look at the 3DS, like I said, 16 and a half hours. That includes sitting in menus for a little bit of time to get 100% in the game. And that's not a lot of time. It seems like a lot when there's 8 areas, but it really isn't. Going back and finding all the collectibles was fun. You literally need the last item the game gives you to get everything, and I don't necessarily mind that, but it is an interesting change where you're not going to be finding a new item and going backwards and you know, like, oh, let me go back to area 1 and see what I can get with my power bomb, right? Like, well, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should wait until you have your X, Y, and Z instead of just X to go back. It doesn't give you enough reason to go back and do that, because you'll go back and be like, I still can't open that door, I still can't open this door, still can't open this door, all the way to the end of the game. And quite honestly, beyond exploring the area you're currently in, I would say never backtrack at all. Like, just don't even bother. Just do it at the very end and collect a bunch of stuff. It's just different. And I think that comes from it being Metroid 2. You know, that is a different game than Super Metroid or Metroid or Fusion or Zero, you know. But what it does interesting and better, I would say, than a lot of the Metroid games I can think of is they'll get to an area, literally area 3 or whatever, and you'll find a bunch of the items, and then you'll use those 3 new abilities to complete the entire area, as opposed to before where you were exploring and backtracking and doing all that. You'll find the 3 things right away and then use them and learn how to use them throughout that area and then move on. It's a little bit of a different approach, and I think they do it very well, although I think the maps are a tad convoluted and meandering, not even the right word, meandering, in a way that's just not that fun to travel back through them. Sometimes there are teleport stations and ways to get around more quickly, but it's just kind of like, oh man, why isn't there a teleport station here? Oh, I gotta go back this way? Like, God damn it. It just becomes a real slog, and that's another reason why you should collect all the items, because once you get the screw attack, then you can move around. Then we got mobility. And that's it. It really becomes a completely different game when you can move in such a way. And also, I should mention, before I forget, the finale leading up to the final boss fight, the final area, is one of the best Metroid moments, I would say. It also is something that I believe is new. I'm pretty confident on that, but I didn't play much, I didn't beat the original Metroid 2, but it's a new experience. It's something akin to the end of Zero Mission that they added in that Zero Suit Samus part. It's akin to that, and I think it's awesome. And it surprised me, and I, there was a revelation attached to it. And even before that, the stuff that happens right before that is great, and I actually wish the rest of the game kind of had some of those elements, which I don't really want to spoil, but having some more stuff like that, I would have been into. I could have played another 30 minutes of that last section, and I would have been in love with it. It was awesome. Taking it with what it was still a pretty great finale. And like I kind of started saying and then forgot, I dipped down in the area 2 to 3, and then the game got better. Like the game got way better once I realized I was kind of being dumb with not using the scan enough to see where things were. And I realized how it was giving out upgrades, and I figured out, like, this is how the game wants me to play. Oh, okay, now I know what to do. I've met the 4 different enemies that I really need to counter. I know what to do against them. And you start getting these really fun abilities, some of which that are unique, like this one, or this one, to the game, and it's completely awesome. They really, you can tell they have so much respect for this series, and it's awesome to see. A ton of fun. It's just not the best Metroid game, I would say. And part of that's not its fault, like I said, with the original being Metroid 2. Not the best Metroid already. And honestly, to me, a lot of these Metroid games have been kind of... They have an uphill battle because of Hollow Knight, which is a game I played earlier this year, which is a more combat-heavy Metroidvania, very much more on the Vania side of that. But that game is so well designed and paced, and the new abilities you get, and like the combat in it is so solid and so just, it's like a fine goddamn wine. And then we have Metroid, which is like a really good beer. I don't drink, so I don't know. It's a really good alcohol, right? But it's still really good and still cool. But Hollow Knight's like just blew me away, and in terms of Metroidvania games, this is really good. But there are better. Nintendo's made better. There's been better Metroid games. I think what was it? The one made by Tom Happ. I forget the name of the game. I remember that the developer, the one-man team who made that game about like almost 2 years ago. That Metroidvania game, I think, is better than this game. There are others that are better. Why can't I remember the name? It doesn't matter. I'll look it up. Axiom Verge. That's the name of the Metroidvania game. That's a really good game. I figured it out. That I think is better, but still, as a swan song to the 3DS, as a new, in air quotes, Metroidvania game, this is pretty great. And I think we should encourage Nintendo with this. It's not like, I know it's bad, we should buy it anyway, though, just so we know, so they know we care. No, it's really good. Don't expect it to blow your socks off or whatever. But it's still a fantastic experience overall, with the gripes, with the shitty controller. Like, good lord, the 3DS is so bad. It feels so bad in your hands. I do not like it. So that's a thumbs up, I guess. I don't know. Did I mention the 3D? The 3D is phenomenal. Just probably the best 3D on the platform. I've seen no better 3D. It is why Nintendo wanted the 3D in the first place. Just strange it took them so long to get there. Maybe we should have had one of these Metroid games 6 years ago on the 3DS. I don't know. Just an idea. Goofballs. And now we'll go to something more self-indulgent. If I do this. No, not a squiggly. There you go.